Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Brandon, and welcome back to another episode of Murata Media. Oscar nominations were announced this morning, and I will be discussing the nominees and who I think will win in this video. 2019 was an unbelievable year for movies. I really can't remember the last time I saw so many good movies back to back to back. So let's see what movie got what nominations. Like I said, I will be reacting to the nominees and I will be giving my predictions of who I think will win and who I want to win. I also want to apologize for my voice if it's noticeable. I am still a little bit sick. And I will only be going over the categories that I feel strongly about. Like, I probably won't go over best documentary short or animated short. So without further ado, let's get started and let's see what movies were nominated for Oscars this year. I'll be going over each category in the order of which the Academy posted them on Twitter. So first up, we got Best Supporting Actress. The nominees for that are Kathy Bates for Richard Jewell, Laura Dern for Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson Jojo Rabbit, Florence Pugh Little Women, and Margot Robbie Bombshell. Kathy Bates is a really big surprise. I didn't see her name come up in like any of the predictions that I read, so that's a really big shock. And Scarlett Johansson, she'll most likely be nominated for this and Best Lead Actress for Marriage Story. Laura Dern won the Golden Globe for Marriage Story, so I think that she's going to take this one. Best Costume Design. The nominees for that are The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. These are all really good choices, but Little Women is a period piece. It takes place after the Civil War, and I know the Academy loves them some period pieces, so I think I'm going to go with Little Women here. Best Sound Mixing, and the nominees for that are Ad Astra, all right, Ford vs. Ferrari, Joker, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm happy that Ad Astra got something. It had to have been nominated for something. God, I love that movie so much. Ford vs. Ferrari is a really good pick, but I think this one's pretty obvious. War movies usually win the sound category, so I'm going to go with 1917. Best Sound Editing. The nominees for that are Ford vs. Ferrari, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Now, this one's the same thing. Usually what wins for Best Sound Editing also wins for Best Sound Mixing. So yeah, I'm going to go with 1917 on this one too. Best Original Score. And the nominees for that are Hildur for Joker. I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher her last name. I don't even want to attempt it. Alexandre Desplat for Little Women. Randy Newman for Marriage Story. Thomas Newman for 1917. And the legendary John Williams for The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, you can't go wrong with John Williams. That man is a legend. I believe he scored every Star Wars movie, and the score for this one was stupendous, like it always is. 1917 also had a really good score, and I actually really enjoyed the score for Marriage Story by Randy Newman, even though some of the songs did sound kind of Toy Story-ish, because that's what Randy Newman is known for. I thought they fit the tone very well. But Hildur won the Golden Globe for this category, and I think that's who I'm going to go with here. I think Joker's going to win Best Original Score. Best Supporting Actor. The nominees for that are Tom Hanks, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins, The Two Popes, Al Pacino, The Irishman, Joe Pesci, The Irishman, and Brad Pitt, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I am very disappointed, though, not to see Willem Dafoe in this category for The Lighthouse. He was so good in that movie. These are some pretty solid choices. Pacino and Pesci were both outstanding in The Irishman, and it was just awesome seeing them work together in a movie. And Joe Pesci was retired, and he might win an Oscar. But he's been sweeping all the other awards, and I think he'll win this one too. I think Brad Pitt's going to take this one. Best Documentary Feature. The nominees are American Factory, The Cave, The Edge of Democracy, For Sama, and Honeyland. Wow. No Apollo 11? That's kind of a surprise. Everyone had Apollo 11 being nominated at the very least. If you guys watch my best of the year list, then you'll know that Fire, the Greatest Party That Never Happened, was my personal favorite documentary of the year. I would have loved if that got a nomination. I mean, American Factory was a Netflix original documentary, but I think that's the safe bet here. I'm going to go with American Factory. International Feature Film. The nominees are Corpus Christi from Poland, Honeyland from North Macedonia, Les Miserables from France, Pain and Glory from Spain, and Parasite from South Korea. This one's not even a contest. Parasite is going to take this by a landslide. I've seen some people complaining that Portrait of a Lady on Fire wasn't nominated, but there's a reason for that. If you don't know, a country can only submit one film for this category, and France chose Les Miserables, so therefore Portrait of a Lady on Fire couldn't be nominated. Best Production Design. The nominees are The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. This might be the strongest category thus far. These are all really good choices. I mean, this is another one I would definitely have loved to see The Lighthouse get a nomination for. I mean, they built a full functioning lighthouse. Like, how can you go wrong with that? But they did the same thing in Parasite. They built a whole neighborhood and they built this beautiful home that the whole movie pretty much takes place in. 1917 was great too. I mean, they recreated a war zone. But I think this one will go to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mean, they recreated Hollywood inside and out of what it looked like in the 60s, and that's really something that you just have to admire. So yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Best Film Editing. The nominees for that are Ford vs. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Parasite. There's a couple of snubs in here. No Marriage Story, no 1917. I thought the editing in those movies were phenomenal. Ford vs. Ferrari is a great choice because the editing in those sequences where they're racing, it's just so smooth and it works so well. If I had to choose, I think this one's going to go to The Irishman, though. Thelma Schoonmaker, she's a really good editor. She's worked with Scorsese for a long time, and I think this one's going to go to her. Best Cinematography. The nominees are The Irishman, Joker, The Lighthouse, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. These are all beautifully shot movies. I love that The Lighthouse got a nomination here because the cinematography in that movie is just, oh my, I can't even express how amazing it is. Because Once Upon a Time was great too. Joker was actually very well shot, surprisingly, and so was The Irishman. Not surprisingly, but you know what I mean. This was the year, though, for cinematography. There were so many good movies that had beautiful scenery. Midsummer comes to mind. Ad Astra, Jojo Rabbit was shot really well. So was Uncut Gems. But I think Roger Deakins is gonna take this one. That would just be sheer poetic justice for him to lose 13 times in a row and then win 2 of the last 3 years he was nominated. Yeah, 1917. Just a technical achievement. Best Visual Effects. Nominees are Avengers Endgame, The Irishman, The Lion King, 1917, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. 1917 is an interesting pick here. A big snub for me would be Spider-Man Far From Home. That movie had excellent visual effects. The Irishman is a really good choice. The de-aging looked very good. I mean, Star Wars, can't go wrong with that. And even though I despise The Lion King, it had some pretty stunning visuals. But I think Avengers is going to take this one because it didn't win last year. I lost to First Man, I believe, because I picked Infinity War to win last year, but it didn't win. I don't think that'll happen again. I think Avengers will take this one. Best Makeup and Hairstyling. The nominees for that are Bombshell, Joker, Judy, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and 1917. These are all really good choices, but if I had to choose one, I would say Bombshell. I mean, they completely changed the face of Charlize Theron to look like Megyn Kelly. When I first saw the trailer for that movie, I had no idea that was even Charlize Theron. She looked like a completely different person. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Bombshell here. Best Animated Feature. The nominees for that are How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, Klaus, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. No Frozen, huh? No Frozen 2? That's actually a really big surprise. I mean, Missing Link won the Golden Globe somehow. They were even shocked that they won it. But to me, this one's pretty easy. It's gonna go to Toy Story 4. Pixar always wins. The only other competition I saw for Toy Story was Frozen, and that's not even nominated. So yeah, I think Toy Story is gonna take this one easily. Best Original Song. The nominees are "I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away" from Toy Story 4. "I'm Gonna Love Me Again" from Rocketman, "I'm Standing With You" from Breakthrough, "Into the Unknown" for Frozen, and "Stand Up" from Harriet. I listened to that Frozen song, and I'm honestly not crazy about it. It's not nearly as catchy as Let It Go was. "I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away," that's a great tune. I love Randy Newman's scores, especially for the Toy Story movies. But in a movie that's about music, and a movie that's a biopic about one of the most iconic musicians of all time, and it winning the Golden Globe, I'm going to go with "I'm Gonna Love Me Again." Best Adapted Screenplay. Nominees for that one are The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi, Joker, Little Women, and The Two Popes. I would love to see Jojo Rabbit win this one because I want to see Taika Waititi win an Oscar, but I don't think it will. I think The Irishman's going to win this one. Best Original Screenplay. The nominees for that are Knives Out, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. I'm really happy to see Knives Out get a nomination. That movie was so well written. And Parasite had a beautiful script. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did too. I said in my review of 1917, the script wasn't bad. I thought it was a very good script, but the script itself didn't really blow me away. That movie was more focused on the technical aspect of it. What I really want to win is Marriage Story, because the script, the dialogue, the blocking, everything in that movie just felt so authentic. But I don't think it's going to win. I think it'll go to Tarantino for the third time. I believe his other previous wins for this category were Pulp Fiction and Django Unchained, if I remember right. But yeah, I think Tarantino's going to walk away with his third original screenplay win. Best Leading Actor. The nominees are Antonio Banderas, Pain and Glory, Leonardo DiCaprio, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver, Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix, Joker, and Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. A lot of snubs in this category. No Adam Sandler, no Taron Egerton, no Robert De Niro. Wow, that really pisses me off that Adam Sandler didn't get in here. He so deserved it. He so deserved a nomination at the very least. I wasn't even saying he had to win it. Who I want to win based off these would be Adam Driver in Marriage Story. He was so good in it, but I think that the pressure is going to get to the Academy, and I think that Joaquin Phoenix will win it for Joker. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was amazing, but that seems like the pretty popular pick, and I think he's got the best chance to win out of all of these. Best Leading Actress. The nominees for that are Cynthia Erivo, Harriet, Scarlett Johansson, Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, Charlize Theron for Bombshell, and Renee Zellweger for Judy. Scarlett Johansson got a nomination in both leading and supporting actress. Good for her. She was great in both those movies. I am very disappointed not to see Awkwafina on this list, but you know, it is what it is, I guess. But I think this one is pretty obvious. I think Renee Zellweger is going to win this because she completely just transformed herself into Judy Garland. So yeah, that's a pretty easy pick for me here. Best Director. And the nominees for that are The Irishman, Martin Scorsese, not a surprise. Joker, Todd Phillips. 1917, Sam Mendes. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino, and Parasite, Bong Joon-ho. Todd Phillips is a really interesting choice. If I could replace him with anybody, I would put Noah Baumbach in there. Greta Gerwig also got snubbed for Best Director. I'm sure that's sitting well with some people. Not to say that Todd Phillips did a bad job, I just think he's probably the weakest out of all of these nominees. I mean, Scorsese's a legend, Tarantino is a legend pretty much too at this point. Bong Joon-ho is slowly making a name for himself, and Sam Mendes was tremendous in his direction of 1917. I mean, this is a tough one. These are all really good directors. I mean, I would love to see Bong Joon-ho win it, but with everything that went into making the movie, it being one shot and the explosions, everything, I think Sam Mendes is going to win this. And the final award, Best Picture. The nominees for that are Ford vs. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. I actually got my predictions right. My friend asked me last night who I thought would be nominated for Best Picture, and I guessed all of these right. I just didn't have Ford versus Ferrari. I just had the other 8, but other than that, I was spot on. If you asked me maybe a month or two ago, I would have said The Irishman would win this no problem. Oh, man, I just don't know now. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood could win it. I would love to see if Parasite won it. I think if I had to choose any of these, and I could be way off, I think 1917 will win Best Picture. No, let's see if that happens. I would be perfectly okay if any of these movies won Best Picture, because they are all stupendous movies, but that's my pick right now. I could change it, but as of this video, that's my pick. I'm going to go with 1917 for Best Picture. Well, in terms of snubs, I'm very disappointed to see that The Lighthouse only received 1 nomination. No nominations whatsoever for Uncut Gems or The Farewell. Adam Sandler deserved it. I think that Uncut Gems should have gotten a nomination for sound design and sound editing. Awkwafina and Zhao Shushen for The Farewell both should have been nominated for lead and supporting actress. Another one I would have loved to see would be Waves for cinematography. I mean, it never stood a chance. Waves was not going to be nominated, but the cinematography in Waves was just so beautiful and gorgeous to look at. But that's it, everybody. Those were my predictions for this year's Oscar Awards. What were your guys' predictions? Comment down below and let me know who you think is going to win. And a lot of these movies made my best of the year list, so if you haven't seen that video, I'll link that right over here. Other than that, I hope you all have a tremendous rest of your day, and I will see you in my next review.